I am actually excited because I've been holding this for a long time. I didn't believe in prophesying this because I didn't want to get in the stream of prophecies and people prophesying. But I did. Oh my goodness. I wanted to see the end of this to look forward to being able to say this. Mostly because I know that God's hand was in this election because we have to have some time of refreshing and revival before any of the tribulation that's going to come whenever it comes. But you guys know by now that Donald Trump is the 47th president of the United States. Yes, I'm smiling. I'm smiling because I haven't voted since Obama ran for the first time. And when Obama ran, I didn't vote for him because I already knew that he was an EKANS backwards. So that's my opinion. You can like my opinion if you don't, or you can if you don't. I don't care. But today is my day. Today is the day of reckoning. I specifically wanted to get online, get on here to debunk and to talk about the fear prophecies that Celestial has been doing and the training that she needs on saying that she is the master's voice when the master's voice is not speaking to us every day like our personal puppet. We cannot treat the master, the head of the universe, God Almighty, as if we're his personal voice. We are to prophesy when he says to prophesy and speak when he says to speak. She prophesied that Kamala Harris was going to be the next president. She also prophesied a 2-for-1 death recently of presidents. Whatever she's saying, I'm saying to you now today, making it official that Celestial has been fear producing people and getting followers. And the enemy thought he would use that and use her. And my phone is not going to be on long. He thought he would use that and use her for his pattern, thinking he would work. It would work, and it didn't work, and it's not going to work. And the words have fallen to the ground. And the Bible says to judge a prophet, you look at their words, and you see if their words fall to the ground, and you wait. And so I just waited, and I knew in my heart of hearts that this would happen. But to see her start switching up and start talking about 2-for-1 deaths here and this and that. And I think she prophesying is things we were seeing literally from day to day, from Diddy to TD Jakes. We all were seeing those failures. We all were seeing that coming. Just speaking it as if there's prophecy that's happening that she just knew about that was already in play. It is not a prophecy when something is already in play and something is already going forward. But she literally prophesied, if you look back on her messages, she literally prophesied that Kamala Harris would be the next female president, and she's not. And that prophecy has fallen to the ground. So now all you followers of those prophecies, you pray for her. I'm not trying to condemn her, but I'm trying to hopefully teach her as a person that's more seasoned not to prophesy something unless you know that God has said that this is going to happen. Don't say it. Everything that you get is not to be said as a prophecy. I could not wait to the end of this election. I knew that it would be hard work, and I knew that when Donald Trump was attempted to be assassinated the first time, I knew that if his life didn't change on that moment, I knew that he had reckoned with God after that moment. I knew it was not fake. I knew it was not something that was put on just to be put on. I just want you to know that we have a 47th president. If you want to get the likes up, if you don't like it, You just lump it. We have a 47th president of the United States, and it is not a third term for Obama. It is not a third term for him. And even as he discredited black men for saying they were going to vote Trump and tried to talk to them like they were little boys. And these American black men spoke about it, born and raised in America, by the way, which of course we know Obama was not born in America. There's a lot of things you guys don't know. There's things that are behind the scene. All those Democratic races, the two terms with Obama, the two terms with the term with Biden, the one term, he has been behind the scenes, and he wanted to be behind the scenes again. People love power. They love power and they love money. Those are the two things that people love. And the love of money is the root of all evil. And Obama, you're hearing some stuff in the background. I'm going to let you hear in a minute. But the love of money is the root of all evil. And power, the love of power is too. And at some point, you got to realize that the enemy can't win all the time. And I am looking forward to change, the change in the administration. So you can put your likes up, put your likes, put your likes, put your likes up, subscribe to this channel. I'm announcing the presidential race has been won by over 270 electoral votes for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is our 47th president of the United States. And am I saying I voted? Yes, it's the first time I voted since I didn't vote for Obama when he ran against McCain. So I'm repeating myself. I got a sticker that said I voted. And I started not to vote when I saw the ballot. I said, well, I don't know. This ballot looks kind of fishy because I don't see any Democrats on some of the sides. And I didn't vote, but for about 3 people on that ballot. And I put it in anyway. And because the lady said, please don't just not vote. Please just vote. Because I almost started to walk out. And I said, let me just go ahead and do what I planned on coming to do. I typically don't vote if God tells me not to. He didn't tell me not to in this election. The last election, he told me it didn't make any sense to vote, that they were going to put Biden in. So I didn't vote. And I hadn't voted. But yes, today I voted. And I see you guys coming in online. I didn't want to stay long, but I wanted to point out, I'm going to show you some videos later on, but I wanted to say Celestial going against this prophetess, what was her name? It was a feud. And the only way I could see the determination of that feud and her and she having words back and forth is there was anointing that I felt on the other lady that I don't ever feel when Celestial speaks. Not saying that she's not anointed, but I do know that the woman she spoke about is anointed. And I have some pictures of her I'm going to put up later on today, that hopefully she'll pray and apologize for coming against that woman, because that woman is anointed. She may not have it all together, as much as Celestia likes to point out people's weaknesses and faults. And I personally wanted to wait today to bring to you that scripture. When you want to see if a prophet is a prophet, you see if their words come and do not fall to the ground. And you will see her prophecies saying and trying to speak into existence things that, I don't know, familiar spirits were telling her to speak it so other people would change their minds, give up and not vote, and just say, oh, Kamala's going to get it. It didn't work. It didn't dissuade anyone. It didn't dissuade the voters that got out and voted, the men that got on and voted, and the women that they didn't expect that got out and voted for Trump. It did not dissuade them. They showed up. Trump continued to press on, even though he had been shot at and also attempted to be shot at twice. Finally, he has come back through the last election, through the court rulings that Fani Willis has brought against him, passed all that, jumped over all those hoops, and now he's making Fani Willis look like mud in her face. And at the same time, Young Thug is out of jail. He's accepted a plea deal. And Fannie Willis, of course, you're going to point out the things that you think you've done, saying, oh, crime has just decreased since October. And because you don't want to point out your failures, you'll start pointing out what you think looks like a success. Well, Fannie Willis, that didn't work. It's not going to work. I don't care how many you swept up off the street, that's coming back to your face too. And yes, Trump did win Georgia. So, hi, Fannie. Trump won your state and you brought him to court and you tried to bring him down. So many things were against this man. I could see that God's hand was on him, and I'm saying it. God's hand is on his life. I know that for a fact because I feel the anointing as I'm saying it. You have to worry about this in these days. You can't go by what a person says or what a person does. It's the anointing that you feel. And the Bible says the anointing destroys the yoke. The anointing is what makes things happen. So God has intervened in this race, got Trump in there, touched the people's hearts and minds to realize that we can't be hoodwinked. We couldn't be talked to like we're dumb and see something red and have somebody call it blue and believe them. Social media has opened our eyes and we see things and we can think with our own senses. So even if you don't have an anointing, think with your senses. Realize, God, what is good sense for me to do? Should I think that I should vote for this person or that one, or should not vote at all? Or I say, when you get to a higher level in God, base your decisions on the feeling that you get, the anointing that you get that makes you go forward. And an anointing pushes you through, it pushes you past your adversities, it makes things fall in line, it breaks things up, it moves obstacles out of the way. Things that you've been waiting for, jobs that you've been waiting for, things that you've been believing God for. It can move mountains and it comes from God, no other source. And I want to say in this short video, celestial, oh, what's it called? I don't want to say I don't want to say anything negative, but I do want to say this. Celestial, read it and weep. Donald Trump is the 47th president of the United States. How come you didn't prophesy that? I didn't see anything of your prophecies on that. Read Celestial Prophecies. She prophesied Kamala Harris was going to become president, the first woman in the White House as president. That didn't happen. Only way Kamala may become president is for the term from this election to when President Trump takes office and something happens to Biden. That's the only way I can see it. So stay tuned. Maybe she has a way of doing that. She's got all these prophecies that she says she's had. So I do know this, that she did not anticipate him becoming president. And so, a lot of you that are following her and believing every little thing she says, follow God. Follow God. Don't follow man. Follow God. Get God's word for yourself. Read your own Bible. Get the Holy Spirit inside your life. Get the anointing inside of you and follow God. Watch his movements. Know when he's doing something. God brought this to mind to me that he did this with um, Donald Trump as he did with David. David was the one that was looked over that they would think would never become the next king. And even the father forgot that he had another son. And Samuel came looking for the king to anoint him. And the father said, well, I got one more son, but he's out there tending the sheep. And they went and got him, and it was David. And David was the one that was anointed as a shepherd boy to become king. And I'm going to look at your remarks here. Let's see. Um, any snacks over here? I wish. I'm so hungry. Hello. Hello, David. No, I was just thinking, man, I got some chips. Yeah, I got some chips. I might go down and get me some chips. Who gonna change? And I need somebody to change the battery. I got the batteries, but my sons won't get up there and change it. So you guys got to hear the beeps. And I kind of get accustomed to the beeps. If I don't hear the beeps, then it doesn't feel the same. Donald Trump won the election. They asked Tiffany Montgomery, that's her name. There was an anointing. Thank you for that word, Stephanie. Tiffany Montgomery, when she sat at that table and gave that word back to Celestial and gave her that warning, the anointing of God came all over me. And it was one part that wasn't anointed at the end. That was probably herself. But the full anointing came on me that woman really heard a prophecy from a woman of God, and she should never have said anything to this woman and allowed God to use her as a vessel. When I heard her say it, it was anointed, and watch it come to pass. So you go by the anointing. Then there was another lady that co-signed, another young lady. She said she had a dream that Tiffany gave her something and told her to keep it. And she had to go somewhere. And I guess the young lady got on a plane or something. Somebody was trying to take what Tiffany said keep. And so that, to me, to tell that young lady, God has given her to keep some of the words and some of the things sacred, to keep her in prayer over some of those things. And that young lady was anointed also. And I don't remember her name, but I did have pictures of them in my phone, but I got a new screen and got things changed. So forgive my fire alarms tonight. I had to say this, and I'm going to go to Celestial Channel, but I'm going to let you see a little bit on the television of the election results, okay? So you guys cannot have to worry about seeing me. Hold on, if I can turn it around.
Thank you very much. Shane Morrison, Wafeli, thank you for your dedication. Oh yeah, I just wrote that. Thank you. Let's see here. Vicente Cabrera says, I'm curious what their campaign and rhetoric has done for the Democratic Party for years to come. The people will now see them for who they are and realize all the lies spewed by the left. A new fan, exactly.
Trying to turn it up for y'all.
Yep. Thank you. Let's see here.
Here we go.
Tech Time with Eric put her spokesman came on stage and said she wouldn't speak tonight. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, she didn't speak all day today, so she knew it was already looking bad, right? Andrea says, Lori, thank you so much for all your support and insight over the last few months. You made my life so much calmer and balanced. Please thank your wife for sharing you with us for all these hours. I definitely.
Let me find something for you on the election exactly.
Right. I mean, I can just imagine thinking about the view, and I was a week or so ago, they were saying, what is wrong with someone who would vote for him? Michelle Obama and Jules Barbo saying, we weren't raised like this. Who raised these people? So I can only imagine what tomorrow is going to look like.
I will say when we talk about the view, what comes to mind is you mentioned the carnage speech that President Trump gave at his inauguration, and my mind automatically went to the unity speech that Biden gave. That he mentioned unity a half dozen times, but when you think about what we got over 4 years, there was the garbage comment that didn't come in isolation. There were all kinds of comments. Neanderthal was one of the first words he used to describe those who opposed his COVID edicts. The Mark Cuban comment, who's an official surrogate of the Kamala campaign, and for as mean as some of President Donald Trump's tweets have been, and people have problems with it, one thing I've challenged Democrats to find is one example of him disparaging the country, half of the country. That's something he has not done. And so I expect you'll hear a unifying tone, and I expect you're going to see a very successful presidency, and one untethered maybe from some of the things that were holding him back. What comes to mind is an Oval Office meeting that we had where Dr. Fauci was urging him not to open the country, and I watched President Trump fight vociferously, saying people are losing their jobs. We must open the country. he wanted to do it sooner than he did. I think a Donald Trump who goes with his instincts is going to be a Trump that ultimately leads a very successful country in second term.
You know, Joe Biden mentioned the word unity more in his inaugural address than any president, I think, except one. If he's serious about that, he'll pardon Donald Trump. He'll also pardon his son. And then he'll put pressure on Georgia and New York to end this lawfare. If there's any silver lining tonight, it is that lawfare actually helps the person that you were trying to go after. We need a justice system. The lady needs to wear blindfold for a reason. We gotta stop this prosecution of our political enemies.
I mean, literally,
Sorry, John. I apologize. Sorry.
There's been a lot of talk about cabinet members, Treasury Secretary, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense. You've got Tom Cotton, Mike Pompeo. You have
well, you also have a Republican bench. And sometimes, like you were saying, that the Democratic Party is quite old right now. There's not a great bench, although there are some, and especially, but when you take governors out of states, then you leave a hole, and then you have to build up that bench back up. But the Republican bench is pretty strong right now.
there you see Doug Burgum and Vivek Ramaswamy, Steve Wynn, who's up in Andrea. So people are there waiting for the former president. Britain would like to know where he is.
It's not
Can we say tonight, though, Harold, that the melting pot still works? That Hispanics, Black Americans, working class Americans, standing up, asking what the government is going to do, asking the government to see them and their concerns, that it works. That this is American democracy in our republic.
The process works. I think until we get a final account of the numbers and the coalition that President Trump won with this time, I think it will be one that will be for the history books. President Bush, I think, got 40+% of the Hispanic vote. George Bush, W. Bush, looks like President, at least the preliminary numbers suggest that. But as much as we talk about the unconventional aspect of this is conventional also. People believed him. He resonated with voters. He resonated with communities, rural communities, urban communities, suburban communities across the country. And I congratulate him tonight. I didn't want him to win, but I congratulate him on his victory and wish him the best for my country. And I can only hope that the concerns that are articulated by my dear friend Kellyanne, that they're not realized. I hope that party and my friends, for that matter, Republicans elected wrongly. Once we get past the moment, 24 hours of excitement and joy and celebration, understand that we're really celebrating on the greatest experiment.
I had to plug you guys up, and I found my snacks. Whoever told me, who was that? Joseph told me, Josh told me to get some snacks. But listen, I'm gonna find some good stuff for y'all to hear. Hold on. I'll do it that. Just a moment.
Husbands, were hateful towards their wives and the women in their lives if they didn't support this candidate. And
Okay.
to show that kind of, manipulating, it doesn't always win.
They were basically bashing people for not supporting Kamala, bashing the men, Obama did. Kamala bashing people, saying, why would you vote for somebody that doesn't want women to have IVFs? All of it was lies. Trump did not say he didn't want them to have IVFs, and he said he wanted to make it possible for women to have pregnancies that way. They were using a lot of fear-mongering, and fear doesn't push things, faith does. Trump just used faith, and they were believing on fear. Fear this, fear that, fear this, fear that. Fear that Trump's going to bring in some 2025 agenda. And he's going to be some kind of some kind of Marxist, some kind of communist over the country. That is not even him or his style or who he was, but they were trying to use fear tactics to win this presidency. And what does that say now? Hold on, what does it say? How close after results reported in Iowa. I don't know. I think they were looking for Pennsylvania. They were holding out on Georgia. Let's see Iowa. Let's find out how close Iowa was. Let's see if I can get to it. Hold on. Iowa. Let's see. They got some live stuff that I was watching earlier. Let's see if we can see Iowa. I know they got some stuff here. How about this? It's just showing I don't know if it'll show Iowa or not. I don't think, there they go. I don't want to get a copyright because of the music. But that's Michigan. If you can see it. This music does not belong to me. It's Nebraska. Somebody wants to see Iowa, so we're going through this, okay? So hold on, let me get Iowa for them. Yes, they gave it back to the states, to put it in the states' hands to do the abortion control instead of the federal. And I prefer that. And I think that's what Trump prefers as well. We're looking for Iowa. When y'all see Iowa, raise your hand. Pennsylvania. This is for the governors, the Senate, and stuff like that, rather. The House. This is for the House in Washington. Democrats won. Republicans won in Missouri for governor. Democrat won for governor in North Carolina by a pretty large margin. Tell me if you see Iowa. I think that person wants to see Iowa for the presidency. Let me get ready to switch it. Hold on. You're absolutely right. The state should have control of that. Let's see. Let's try another one. They didn't want to call it for a long time. They didn't want to call it for a long time, y'all. They didn't want to call it. They did not want to call it. I'm so glad to see that people get back to themselves. I'm going to start doing a series of videos so you'll see where Kamala was prophesied to be the next president on all these false prophetic people. I'm not even going to keep saying false prophecies, false people. Just because you cover your head doesn't make you a voice for God. Here we go. Hold on, it's Trump.
All right, let's see. Okay.
He's going to make a speech, y'all.
Still playing. Look at that. The whole family.
Get ready for it. Get ready for it. You're going to be in on it. Tag somebody, y'all. Tag somebody.
That is amazing. Yeah, so while we're waiting, it's probably, 30 seconds or so. Yeah, the whole purpose of the channel
Shout
is
out
just
to this
provide
guy.
common sense, and
Devory Darkins.
And,
Devory Darkins taking his time to cover Trump for the longest. He's got t-shirts that says, "You're fired, Kamala."
I'm my own man. I've had a lot of hard lessons I went through. And so I think that I'm an example of why this country is not racist, okay? There is no system against me holding me back, and neither is it for you, you know? And if you just dedicate yourself and work your ass off, good things can happen. It doesn't mean you're always gonna win. You're gonna take some losses, but if you do what you're supposed to
Trump
do, I
is
do
going to
believe
give
that
us
you'll be successful.
opportunities. And if we
And I
take
think
them
this
and
is a
run
great
with them,
example
we
of
can
seeing
do
that as a
good.
country, that playing the victim card isn't going to lead to the results that you want. And so I think this win really shows that. And anyways, so yeah, that's why I say the things that I say in the way that I do. All right, here we go.
Y'all tag somebody, tag your friends. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people on here. Tag somebody.
Incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country.
This is the biggest journey. Let me say this. This is the biggest journey.
Level of importance because we're going to
Look at what he's gone through to get here.
our country heal. Help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
Amen. Amen.
This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again.
Amen.
And in addition to having won the battleground states of North Carolina,
Pennsylvania,
and these places, Georgia, Pennsylvania,
yeah,
Wisconsin, we are now winning in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska, which would result in us carrying at least 315 electoral votes. But
wow, more than 270.
But it's much easier doing what the networks did or whoever called it, because there was no other path. There was no other path to victory. We also have won the popular vote. That was great. I was proud of that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Winning the popular vote was very nice. Very nice. I wrote out it. It's a great feeling of love. We have a great feeling of love in this very large room with unbelievable people standing by my side. These people have been incredible. They've made the journey with me, and we're going to make you very happy. We're going to make you very proud of your vote. I hope
that you're going to be looking back someday and say that was one of the truly important moments of my life when I voted for this group of people beyond the president, this group of great people. America has given us an unprecedented
Yes.
and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's great. And the Senate races in Montana, Nevada, Texas, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin,
Wow.
the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, were all won by the MAGA movement. They helped so much. And in those cases, every one of them, we worked with the senators. They were tough races, and I mean, the number of victories in the Senate was absolutely incredible. And we did tele-rallies. We did tele-rallies with each one of them, and sometimes we did 2 or 3 and it was amazing to look at all of those victories. Nobody expected that, nobody. So I just wanted to thank you very much for that. And you have some great senators and some great new senators. And it also looks like we'll be keeping control of the House of Representatives.
We'll be able to get some stuff
Mike
done.
Johnson, I think he's doing a terrific job. Terrific job. I want to also thank my beautiful wife, Melania, First Lady. Who has the #1 best-selling book in the country. Can you believe that? Oh, no, she's done a great job, works very hard to help people. So I just want to thank her, but I want to thank my whole family, my amazing children, and they are amazing children. And we all think our children are amazing. Everybody here thinks their children are amazing, but that's a good thing when you think they are. But Don, Eric, Ivanka, Tiffany, Barron, Laura, Jared, Kimberly, Michael, thank you all. What a help. What a great. My father-in-law, Victor, is tremendous, and we miss very much Melania's mother, Amalia. We miss Amalia, don't we, huh? She would be very happy right now, standing on this stage. She'd be so proud. She was a great woman, that one. Beautiful inside and out. She was a great woman. I want to be the first to congratulate our great, now I can say, Vice President-elect of the United States, J.D. Vance. And his absolutely remarkable and beautiful wife, Ushabez. And he is a feisty guy, isn't he? You know, I've said, go into the enemy camp, and you know the enemy camp is certain networks. And a lot of people don't like it. Sir, do I have to do that? He just goes, okay. Which one? CNN, MSDNC? He'll say, all right, thank you very much. He actually looks like, he's like the only guy I've ever seen. He really looks forward to it, and then he just goes in and absolutely obliterates that. Say a couple of words.
Wild. Well, Mr. President, I appreciate you allowing me to join you on this incredible journey. I thank you for the trust that you placed in me. And I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America. And under President Trump's leadership, we're never going to stop fighting for you, for your dreams, for the future of your children. And after the greatest political comeback in American history, we're going to lead the greatest economic comeback in American history under Donald Trump's leadership.
Thank you very much. He turned out to be a good choice. I took a little heat at the beginning, but he was, I knew the brain was a good one, about as good as it gets. And we love the family, and we're gonna have a great 4 years, and we're gonna turn our country around, make it something very special. Lost that little thing called special. We have to make it so. We're gonna make this so great. It's the greatest country and potentially the greatest country in the world by far. And right now we're gonna just work very hard to get all of that back. We're gonna make it the best it's ever been. We can do that. If we had to wait longer, I don't know. It was going bad, and it was going bad fast. We're gonna have to seal up those borders, and we're gonna have to let people come into our country. We want people to come back in, but we have to let them come back in, but they have to come in legally. They have to come in legally. Let me also express my tremendous appreciation for Susie and Chris, the job you did. Susie, come here. Come here, Susie. Chris, come here, Chris. Susie likes to stay sort of in the back, let me tell you. The ice thing, we call it the ice thing, right? Chris, come here, Chris. Susie likes to stay in the background. She's not in the background. Come here, Susie.
This was unexpected, but I just want to thank, obviously, President Trump for this journey. It was a great one, and he's a hell of a candidate. And he's going to be a hell of a great 47th president. And this team that we had, the best team, and of course, even my boss, Susie Wiles, the best. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Susie. Look at this, she's shot. I've never seen her be shot before. Susie. They're great. Everybody up here is great. Everybody up here is very special. But the Trump, who did you say? Oh, let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon. Now he is. Now he's an amazing guy. We were sitting together tonight. You know, he spent 2 weeks in Philadelphia and different parts of Pennsylvania campaigning. You know, he sent the rocket up 2 weeks ago, and I saw that rocket, and I saw it coming down, and I saw it, when it left, it was beautiful, shiny white. When it came down, it didn't look so pretty. It was going 10,000 miles an hour, and it was burning like hell. I said, what happened to your paint job? He said, we've never made a paint that could withstand that kind of heat. And, but I saw it come down and turn around. And it was, you know, it's like 22 stories tall, by the way. It looks a little smaller than that, but it's big. And it came down, and you saw that fire burning. And I said, only Elon can do this. It must be an Elon. And I tell the story. I told it last night. I had a man on the phone. I had the screen muted, no sound. I was talking to a very important man, happens to be here. And a very important guy, one of the most important people in, I would say, the country, actually. But, you know, I was president, and now it looks like I was going to be maybe president again, so I figured I could ask him to hold. So I asked him to hold, and especially because you're going to be president again, they hold. So I took the phone down, and I'm looking at the screen, I'm seeing this crazy thing that's going around and coming down, and it looks like it's going to crash into the gantry. And I said, oh no, and I said, do me a favor, do you mind holding for a couple of minutes? I want to see this. I thought it was a space age movie or something. I put the phone down, bad part, I didn't pick it up for 45 minutes, and he was holding. But this spaceship came down, and I saw those engines firing, and it looked like it was over, it was going to smash, and then I saw the fire pour out from the left side and it put it straight. And it came down so gently and then it wrapped those arms around it and it held it. And just like you hold your baby at night, your little baby. And it was a beautiful thing to see. And I called Elon. I said, Elon, was that you? He said, yes, it was. I said, who else can do that? Can Russia do it? No. Can China do it? No. Can the United States do it other than you? No. Nobody can do that. I said, that's why I love you, Elon. That's great. And you know, when we had the tragic Hurricane Helene, and it hit in particular.
Now he's talking about the hurricane. We need to hear this, because there's no more disaster money with FEMA.
Nothing. Fields became lakes.
Let me see if y'all have any questions.
And the danger was unbelievable. And the people from North Carolina came to me and they said, would it be possible, at all possible, for you to speak to Elon Musk? We need Starlink. I said, what's Starlink? It's a form of communication. So I called Elon, and I'll tell you what, he had, and it was very dangerous. People would die. They had no communication. All the wires were down. I called Elon Musk. I said, Elon, you have something called Starlink, is that right? Yes, I do. What
Y'all want to check out ABC News?
Communication system that's
or keep watching this? You want me to switch up? Tell me.
Badly in North Carolina. Can you get it?
Or I'll keep watching this. I can show you some other things and come back.
It saved a lot of lives. He saved a lot of lives.
But this is important.
He's a super genius. We have to protect our geniuses. We don't have that many of them. We have to protect our super geniuses. I want to thank some of the guys. You know, we have.
Y'all want to see ABC?
The U.S. Open champion. He's fantastic. Albert, slightly longer than me. It's a ball, a little bit longer than me. Just a little bit. Bryson DeChambeau is up here sometimes. What happened to Bryson? Where is he? Bryson. Oh, he was shot. He's hitting balls. Oh, he's on the way.
Let's catch ABC.
Bryson. Oh, look at him. He had a great, got a great career going. Great U.S. Open, Bryson. That's a fantastic job. And we also have a man, Dana White, who has done some He's a tough guy. So Dana started UFC and came to me, do you mind if I use your, nobody wanted to give him a raise because they said it's a rough sport, a little rough. And I helped him out a little bit and I went and I said, this is the roughest sport I've ever seen, but I began to like it and he loved it and nobody's done a better job in sports. And you know, he's a very motivational kind of a guy, what he does. He gets these fighters and they really go at it. And it's become one of the most successful sports enterprises anywhere at any time. It's doing so well. I'd like to ask Dana just to say a couple of words because people love to hear from him.
Nobody deserves this more than him, and nobody deserves this more than his family does. This is what happens when the machine comes after you. What you've seen over the last several years, this is what it looks like. Couldn't stop him. He keeps going forward. He doesn't quit. He's the most resilient, hard-working man I've ever met in my life. His family are incredible people. This is karma, ladies and gentlemen. He deserves this. They deserve it as a family. I want to thank some people real quick. I want to thank the Nelt boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, Bustle with the Boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan. And thank you, America. Thank you. Have a good night.
That is a piece of work. Nah, he's he's really an amazing guy. But most of all, I want to thank the millions of hardworking Americans across the nation who have always been the heart and soul of this really great movement. We've been through so much together, and today we showed up in record numbers to deliver a victory like really, I probably like no other. This was something special, and we're gonna pay you back. We're gonna do the best job.
He appreciates us, y'all. He appreciates us.
We're gonna turn it around.
He wants to pay it back because he knows people really came and supported him. That's so humble to say he wants to pay it back.
So I just want to say that on behalf of this great group of people, these are hard-working people. These are fantastic people, and we can add a few names like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He came on. And he's going to help make America healthy again. And he's a great guy, and he really means it.
Okay, we're gonna flip over to ABC if you guys want to. Is there a few of you that want to flip over to ABC? I think I see a few.
We have more liquid gold, oil and gas. We have more liquid gold than any country in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. We have more than Russia. Bobby, stay away from the liquid gold. Other than that, go have a good time, Bobby. We're going to be paying down debt. We're going to be reducing taxes. We can do things that nobody else can do. Nobody else is going to be able to do it. China doesn't have what we have. Nobody has what we have. But we have the greatest people also. Maybe that's the most important thing. This campaign has been so historic in so many ways. We've built the biggest, the broadest, the most unified coalition. They've never seen anything like it in all of American history. They've never seen it. Young and old, men and women, rural and urban. And we had them all helping us tonight, when you think. I mean, I was looking at it, I was watching it. They had some great analysis of the people that voted for us. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. They came from all quarters, union, non-union, African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Arab American, Muslim American. We had everybody, and it was beautiful. It was a historic realignment, uniting citizens of all backgrounds around a common core of common sense. You know, we're the party of common sense. We want to have borders. We want to have security. We want to have things be good, safe. We want great education. We want a strong and powerful military, and ideally we don't have to use it. You know, we had no wars. 4 years we had no wars, except we defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in record time, but we had no wars. They said, you will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. But this is also a massive victory for democracy and for freedom. Together we're going to unlock America's glorious destiny, and we're going to achieve the most incredible future for our people. Yesterday, as I stood at my last stop on the campaign trail, I'll never be doing a rally again. Can you believe it? I think we've done 900 rallies approximately from them. Can you imagine?
Let's check it out.
900.
Iowa. See if I can find it.
Come on in. My wife has party of it.
I don't own that music. Trying to find Iowa from somebody. Let me go to ABC. Let me go to live news.
But now we're going on to something that's far more important, because the rallies were used for us to be put in this position where we can really help our country. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make our country better than it ever has been. I said that many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission. The task before us will not be easy, but I will bring every ounce of energy, spirit, and fight that I have in my soul to the job that you've entrusted to me. This is a great job. There's no job like this. This is the most important job in the world. Just as I did in my first term, we had a great first term, a great first term. I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. And we're going to keep our promises.
All right.
Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people. We will make America safe, strong, prosperous, powerful, and free again. And I'm asking every citizen all across our land to join me in this noble and righteous endeavor. That's what it is.
Don't forget to give me some likes and give me some subscriptions.
Behind us, it's time to unite. And we're going to try, we have to try. And
I'm asking y'all to give me some subscriptions and some thumbs up and share the video, okay? Please, I'm up late. It's like midnight. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Success is going to bring us together, and we are going to start by all putting America first. We have to put our country first for at least a period of time. We have to fix it. Because together we can truly make America great again for all Americans. So I want to just tell you what a great honor this is. I want to thank you. I will not let you down. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's look at another one. Let's hold up. I want to get to that coverage, that live TV. Let's look at this one. Is this ABC? Let's find one that...
He spoke of his campaign and returning to the presidency.
Everybody has this on it, so it's not showing numbers or the state or how many states he got.
He mentioned it a couple of times. Said it's a very great feeling, a feeling of love to win the popular vote. He said a star is born, and Elon Musk mentioned some of the others who have helped him win, who have supported him.
I haven't seen it. Come on, this television is hard to work sometimes. I'll power it off and do that. How about I do that? I powered it off, guys. So how do you guys feel? Does everybody feel like I feel? Are you guys excited for this new election, bringing in some change? Are you looking forward to it? Do you think he's going to keep his promises? What do you guys say? Are you still with me? Give me some thumbs up if you think he's going to keep his promises. Some thumbs down if you don't think he can. So let's do it that way. Let me get this TV on. I want to find where you can see the states and who voted what. With the live coverage, let's see. There's ABC. Let's watch ABC. Okay?
Where they are in culture today, where they're listening, where they're watching, what they're interested in, and meeting them where they are. And that was part of, I think, when people look back at this campaign, the successful strategy of this campaign. Again, we're at the precipice of sort of announcing as a network here that Donald Trump will be headed back to the White House. So we're waiting for Wisconsin. We're also waiting Rick Klein for Alaska as well. And then a number of other states that are just very close that could headed that direction as well. But what are you looking at as potentially what will put him at that key number 270 or beyond?
Yeah, David, 266 electoral votes right now that ABC News projects that he will capture. Alaska is a state that is extremely Republican. Trump with 100,000 votes, about 28,000 votes more than Kamala Harris. That's going to take a little while for votes to come in, but that could easily be projected tonight. Maine second congressional
There you
district.
go. There you got the map.
They award their districts separately. That could be the 270th, and as could Michigan, where he currently has a 300,000 vote lead. It's still a lot of vote still to come in Detroit. That might hold that back. And then you've got Wisconsin, which as we've been talking about, 121,000 vote lead. He is also currently leading in both Arizona and Nevada. And we still have a lot of votes to come in there, but it's beyond even talking about pathways to 270. 270 is within his grasp. It would be beyond shocking for him not to receive 270 electoral votes. I can't really fathom a situation where all of those things would fall into place for Vice President Harris. He's knocking at the door, and it's kind of opened it already.
Yeah, it's just a matter of the numbers coming in and making sure there's absolutely not a possibility any other way before our decision desk, and we really appreciate their great care. We would do this no matter what campaign it was, and this is what election nights are in America, and we're used to that. I do want to project two more states though. Minnesota, 10 electoral votes going to Vice President Harris. Of course, Governor Tim Walz, our running mate from Minnesota. It took some time though before we announced that state. In New Jersey.
Okay, that's Minnesota. That's close to Iowa.
14 more electoral votes. Let's go to the map right now.
She won in New Jersey.
Let's look at the map.
51%.
Where this race stands.
I know people want to know where they ran.
Kamala Harris 218, Donald Trump 200.
Y'all see that?
So as Rick Klein mentions, we see where the map will come from. That will put him over 270. We're just waiting for the official projections and a number of other states that should be coming, we think, within the next hour or so. But that is where the map stands right now. John Carl, let's talk about that. You want me to mention that some stations in the West are going to leave us now. I know you're standing by to bring your local viewers up to date on local news, so we'll let you do that. Thank you for joining us. And local newscasts are going to begin now, and I'll pause here for them to join their own audiences. And we'll continue here with the rest of the network. And thank you for being here. This is ABC News Live coverage of Election Night 2024. It's now just before 3 a.m. Eastern Time. John Carl, former President Donald Trump up there, he was talking about being the 45th president, the 47th president, and he thanked his family, his supporters, and talked about the extraordinary night that it is for him.
I mean, look, it is an extraordinary night. We said it, J.D. Vance said it as well, greatest political comeback in the history of American politics. Nothing else is even close. I mean, Nixon, we thought, had the greatest before this when he lost in 1960, comes back in 68. But this is somebody that I don't think anybody in the Republican Party, any of the leaders in the Republican Party, I don't even think our friend Reince over here would have imagined Donald Trump coming back after he left the White House the way he left in January of 2021. And then to win the way he won, to win the popular vote, to win decisively in the Electoral College, to have
fair and square,
to be, at least potentially, lining up to be a clean sweep of the battleground states. Look, Democrats spent more money than Donald Trump on this race. Democrats thought they had more enthusiasm than Donald Trump. They were proven to be wrong on that score. This was something, I was talking to Democrats in the final days of this campaign who believed that they had a chance, that Kamala Harris had a chance to basically run the table on the battleground states. They thought that something had fundamentally changed in the race. This is what we were told, and Mary heard the same thing, and it just wasn't there. Donald Trump won and won
fair and square,
decisively, waiting for our final call. But what we've called so far, it's astounding.
Mary Bruce, anything more from the Harris campaign tonight?
They are notably dark, and silence speaks volumes, I think, at this hour. We do know that she is going to come out and speak tomorrow. The remarks that she had planned to give tonight were postponed. She'll be there speaking, we believe, at Howard University tomorrow. I just keep thinking about the picture that they had been painting of Donald Trump in the last days and weeks, this really dire picture, calling him unfit, saying that he simply doesn't represent and stand for the ideals of this country. Kamala Harris called Donald Trump a fascist. And she continued to argue over and over again that she could bring the country forward, that she could turn the page. And it turns out that the country did want to turn the page. They just wanted to turn the page on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's administration. And what a remarkable, different vision we are now getting from this election. Elections tell you a lot about what the country stands for and what the country wants. And it is just such a drastically different vision from the one that Kamala Harris was outlining.
And some surprising numbers given the polling going into this election. And then where we landed as far as the gender gap being, as Gary Langer said, the same gender gap that we've had going back to the mid-90s.
So many gaps, and I'd like to go through them with you, David. First, I'm mindful of our colleague, Charlie Gibson, who 8 years ago on election night said what he found so dismaying were the disparities between so many different groups, whether it was young and old, black and white, male, female, college, non-college. Yesterday, we had the chance to speak with Mark Updegrove, presidential historian, who said not since the Civil War has this country been so polarized. So you have to go back almost 160 years. And so look at what we're talking about. What Charlie was saying in 2016, it's only gotten worse. So if you take a look at the male vote, for example, take a look, 54% for Donald Trump, then it flips when you look for the female vote, 54% for Kamala Harris. If you look at college, this is again nationwide, no college degree, 54% for Donald Trump. Those with a college degree, 57% for Kamala Harris. Everything flips. Look at this is the biggest one. The white voters, which made up 71% of the electorate, 55% went for Donald Trump. If you look at black voters, look at this, overwhelmingly, 86% went for Kamala Harris. And so the point that Charlie was trying to make is that this speaks a country that it's frightening no matter who wins. And so what we heard Donald Trump say tonight is we're going to help heal our country. He said it's time to put the division of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. We're going to try. We're going to try. We're going to try. It's going to happen. Success will bring us together. But I think tonight, so much uncertainty reigns throughout this country, no matter which side you're on.
Yeah, and he did say that he had a taste of that, or insinuated that he did in his first presidency, that when there was some successes, that then support then comes from other corners. Martha, your thoughts on the speech and the night?
The speech of the night, when I heard Kamala Harris give her speech on the Mall, and Mary, you of course were there, I was driving through Arizona. And when she said, talking about Donald Trump, this is not America, I had just left a Trump voter standing under gazillion Trump flags, a flag that said Joe Biden is not my president. I thought, actually, this is a big part of America. So bringing this country together, bringing that divide together. Joe Biden said the same thing in his inaugural speech, unity, unity, unity. Donald Trump has said it before, unity, unity, unity. It is a big, big divide. But I also met a couple on the road in Michigan, and just by happenstance, they were camping out in a lovely little family on the shores of Lake Michigan. And I interviewed the mom, and she was full on stolen election. I'm all in for Donald Trump. Her husband was all in for Kamala Harris. So I said, how do you do this in a marriage? How do you keep that together? And he said, we just never talk about it. So I guess if they can do that and stay married, the country can certainly do that as well. But boy, is it a big bridge to cross for either side, because the split is enormous. The feelings are enormous. I also think when I look at Kamala Harris, I don't think people in the end really knew her. I'm not sure that message really got out. There was such enthusiasm. I actually drove across all the Rust Belt on the way to the DNC. Such enthusiasm for her, but it just stalled. It just stopped. And I do think voters really didn't get a chance to know her.
Brian?
Well, first of all, to Jonathan's comment about how I didn't think that this could happen, I actually had a conversation with the president after 2020 and he was obviously upset about the outcome of the election. And I was talking to him and I told him, look, I know it would have been better just to win, but if you could write the chapter in your book, there would be nothing more Trumpy than for you to lose, run again and win. You couldn't possibly think of a better ending to this story.
But you wouldn't have written the January 6th
And so,
would you?
no, but look, I think two of the things he said was, number one, he wants to help our country heal. Very important comment. That was the first thing, pretty much first comment out of his mouth. But then the second thing, which I think goes to the America First message, he said, we made history for a reason. And I think from Trump's mind, that reason is to do the things that he's wanted to do, which is what I think the American people bought into. We talked a little bit about urban messaging and rural messaging. I think the story of this outcome is that the messaging of Donald Trump was working in both places. It was eating away Kamala Harris's usual hold in these urban areas. Unions like what they were hearing. Confront China, who's ripping off the world. Parents wanted to hear about the issues revolving around fentanyl. Illegal immigrants were going into sanctuary cities like New York, San Francisco, Martha's Vineyard, and they were making impacts all over the country. And so I think that's really the message here. And we're going to wait and see. I think it's going to be an exciting time and a great opportunity for people to make a difference.
John, what do you think the Democratic Party takes from this evening, and are, always postmortems? You've been part of those. You've been part of victories along the way too. Where does the postmortem begin here?
Well, and just sitting here over the last 3 hours, and I've been in this game now for 40 years. I know I don't look a day past 18, but that's because I like to go out when I leave here. Look, winning Illinois 51-47, Joe Biden carried it by 57 points. The fact that we just...
As Democrats now, they really believe in what they said, which is democracy at risk, and we need to be standing up for democracy. Well, then you need to stand up for this result and respect it. You don't have to agree with it. As Donna said, you can continue to argue on the issues that you think are really important to the future of the country, and you should, because that's the way the founders set up this country to be, was to be a conflict. I believe, as the president-elect, is that now it's up to you to decide what kind of president you really want to be. You know, every time after an election is over, you have an opportunity to remake yourself and to be from a candidate to a public servant. He has that opportunity now too. And we're going to be able to judge whether he meets what he said tonight and whether or not he meets the goals of what our democracy should be. And that's what I'm hoping for after tonight, is that he meets that. And if he does, the country will be better. And if he doesn't, he too will be judged.
He's aware of how the first presidency ended. John Carl was talking about January 6th, and you can only serve 2 terms. It's a second presidency. Obviously, you're assuming he's president-elect. We haven't officially called it. The math is clearly about unity.
He has to decide.
Sorry for the disconnect.
The great thing about being an executive, in my mind, has always been, other than being a member of 435 or 100, is you get to decide every morning.
How y'all doing? Are y'all good?
When you wake up, and how you're going to quit yourself in a job like that, where you're really the unifying leader if you want to be. And I think that's exactly the opportunity he's got now, without having, and we're going to see what he does with it. But remember what I said earlier, he's got 2 years. Because this country understands what democracy means too. It means we move
I'm reading
on.
the messages now.
And when the president reaches the end of his term.
You mentioned, it should be noted as well that the prophecy mirror gives direction that the great white merely rides upon the back of the horse or the beast, not that she becomes the beast riding its back. She becoming the beast riding its back is something different from saying riding the back of the beast. How does she become the beast? Is that the question that you're saying? Iowa's previous victory. I haven't found that yet, but I was just reading that. If you want to respond to the last thing that I read, go ahead and respond, and I'll try to answer it. I'm going to do some notes on that prophecy where she said Kamala Harris will become president, and then we'll talk about it then. Just make sure you have your bell notification on, and so you get the notifications when I go live, because I don't go live all the time or upload a video, but I will more frequently. I've got some new camera equipment, microphones, head mics where I don't have to hold a mic, lapel mics they call them. And so let's do that. Let me turn this back on and find something more interesting.
Race after the attack on the Capitol, and he comes back in triumph, and he's promised, we know what he's going to do.
Let's try what NBC is talking about.
As we thought, and no one thought it was going to be easy. Everyone thought it was going to be a coin flip. It was going to be so tight. But now looking back, and we can look back a little bit and maybe Monday morning quarterback and say there were signs there for Democrats to be a little nervous.
And Hallie, obviously Democrats have a lot ahead of them now as they try to work through this and find the lessons. Yeah. But that takes time. Yeah, things don't get turned around even in 4 years.
And at this moment, I think there is, by all accounts and by the reporting that our teams are doing, a bit of a moment of shell shock here for Democrats, for folks who had worked to try to turn out the vote for Vice President Kamala Harris, who had hoped that tonight would be history-making in a very different kind of way, that instead of seeing, of course, Donald Trump elected, that the nation would see its first female president, its first president who was a woman of color. That is, by the math that you and Tom just laid out, looks to not be the case once Donald Trump does hit 270 electoral college votes. I'm struck by some reporting that members of our team put in from a Harris aide who talked about needing to find some love for the people, the other half of the country, not Democrats, right, not Harris backers, who chose to back former President Trump despite or perhaps because of his rhetoric here. And so I am curious to see as morning, I was going to say night turns into day, but as early morning turns into later morning, where Democrats are on this. I think you heard some of it at the table when we were with former Senator Claire McCaskill, former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, about maybe a moment of soul searching for Democrats, what the brand is, what the outreach is to Americans here, especially when our exit polling shows that fewer people identify as Democrats right now. We saw that surge in people who said that they really weren't down with either party, Lester. And so that is also a factor here, I think, as Democrats are looking at what this moment means for them and how they move forward. I do also think that control of the House, and whether that goes Democratic or not, is also going to be a factor in this as well.
Okay, Hallie, thanks very much. We're going to take a quick break right here, and then we'll pick it right up with our colleagues Kate Snow and Craig Melvin.
See what CBS is saying.
Have a real hand on the steering wheel when it comes to health policy in this country.
Donald Trump says he'll let RFK Jr. do what he wants with women's health care.
And this is someone who has opposed vaccine mandates. We don't have time to get into every single position of Mr. Kennedy, but you have a coalition that's not a traditional conservative coalition. And when it comes to abortion rights and other issues, conservatives might be frustrated by how Trump took this position on abortion, how he responded to reporters earlier today. But talking to my sources in the evangelical community, the Catholic community, the Jewish community, I will tell you this. Tonight, They all say to CBS News they believe they will have a seat at the table with Trump. The 47th president, they believe, will give them a full hearing, regardless of what he said during the campaign, to hear how they want to overhaul social policy, economic policy, foreign policy.
Well, Bob, you heard him tonight. Staff. Who will be Donald Trump's chief of staff?
The leading candidate, I'm told at this moment, is Susie Wiles, who you just saw on stage. Someone who has become a confidant. Trump likes that she's low-key. As you saw tonight, she didn't want to speak. Chris LaCivita, who has been her partner, said a few words. I'm told LaCivita is not interested in necessarily being chief of staff, but you could also have someone from the business community. Now, you have a lot of business leaders who are angling for positions, but Trump, as he has told many people privately, essentially wants to be his own chief of staff. Kevin McCarthy, the former House Speaker, is someone whose name has been mentioned, but he is not, I'm told, interested in coming into that role.
We've heard him tonight say promises
Staff
made.
is a real dangerous thing. Jimmy Carter tried that, and it's a disaster.
Don't they say a doctor who is his own patient or a lawyer who's his own client is a fool? But you heard him say in his speech, promises made, promises kept. And Maya Angelou used to say, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Do we have any reason to doubt that he won't do everything that he said he's going to do?
And more. What's so notable about this election is that former President Trump believes he has not just won an election, but he has affirmed a movement in this country that I think back, and the Democrats are going to have a moment for the next 4 years where they think about their future. I remember sitting over breakfast with Bernie Sanders, the Vermont senator, 10 years ago, and he told me that the future in this country would come down to the issue of class. Class more than anything. How people feel economic pain. And he said it's either going to be the Democrats or Republicans who speak to the economic pain people feel in this country. And he still believes, based on my reporting, that he would have won against Trump in 2016. President Biden believes he would have beat Trump in 2016 because they believe they speak to that economic pain. Biden wins in 2020 with a similar coalition trying to speak to working people. But the question now for Democrats is, can they win back some of these people? And it might not be appealing to the Liz Cheney Republicans, but appealing to those who like Senator Bernie Sanders, those who are searching. We encounter in our reporting all the time people in this country who are not seeing themselves as political, but feel pain about the future of their well-being, their families' opportunity.
But Kamala Harris always talked about the working class and the middle class and what she wanted to do.
But it was a compressed campaign.
Okay.
Just a few weeks.
Did they not believe her?
It's not that they didn't believe her. So many voters I met feel like they didn't fully know her in terms of speaking to their grievances. They respected her as a vice president of the United States, but she was a relatively low vice president, low profile, with working with President Biden. And running from August to now is not easy, even if you're a perfect politician with a perfect campaign.
You know, one thing we haven't seen a delay in is the world leaders who are coming out and congratulating Donald Trump, even though he is still short of the 270 electoral votes at this hour. Two of the first conservative leaders, two of his biggest fans, Hungary's Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, one of the most problematic members of NATO, who has put his body oftentimes in between yes votes to approve more funding for Ukraine. Also, now the head of a very far right-wing government in Israel, the most far right in Israel's history of existence, Benjamin Netanyahu, coming out and celebrating him, somebody who has actually been calling Donald Trump as the president in waiting for months and making calculations, we know and have reported, about what his plans are for the future of the wars he is waging based on the outcome of what happened tonight.
And we know that other leaders have been speaking with Donald Trump privately, have visited him. They haven't been reported publicly, but many of them have maintained close relationships with him.
That's right. Leaders in the Gulf, leaders in Europe as well. The Prime Minister of Poland was deployed by the Allies to try to convince him to change his position on Ukraine. Very concerned that the vice president he has chosen would affirm an isolationist view that would indicate that there are very big problems and perhaps wind in the sails of Vladimir Putin, despite the fact that he is losing a number of soldiers on the battlefield.
You know, we didn't get a chance to talk to Gary Cohn about all of this, but when you think of two of the items in the Trump agenda, the promises he's going to keep, Tariffs, 40% of the American economy is trade related. So even if Trump doesn't do the full Megillah, you're talking about massive disruption or plan for massive disruption in 40% of the economy or more, and then immigration. So much of the work, you want to build all that new housing? Who does the building of that new housing? The people Donald Trump wants to deport. And when you think about just the economic upheaval that he's promising, and how that will cycle through, we've been talking about the voters who feel like he heard them and understands them and will fight for them, but the policies he's advocating for, how those match up with those expectations, that will be fascinating to watch.
I want to continue this conversation, but we got to squeeze in a quick break. Coming up, where the race stands in the contest to 270 electoral votes. We'll be right back.
With Root Insurance, it's easy to save because your driving is the #1 factor in your rate. You can save hundreds on your car insurance, and it only takes minutes to file a claim through the app. So you save time too. Get Root and see how much you can save.
Why is it so hard? I just want a new TV!
You're still doing that?
It's so confusing!
What do you try?
Great! Do we want QLED or OLED or 4K or Hertz or HDMR or HDMR10 or HDMI?
Plus, we got a Roku TV. It's great for streaming and it updates itself so it keeps getting better.
Just like our marriage!
Every day with you in the gift.
That's better. Less screaming, more streaming. Roku.
Max capacity. CBS Reports goes inside a crisis cities and families are facing as they fight to survive.
The United States still has that glimmer of hope for people to come here.
Fighting for a future. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
This case.
It's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Like a John Grisham novel. A gripping true crime original. 48 hours. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
CBS Mornings Plus, clearly more news, more smart conversation,
more money-saving tips, more recipes,
more uplifting ways to get you on your way.
Plus, more sports, more weather.
Clearly, more CBS Mornings.
Plus,
At the CBS Broadcast Center in New York with coverage of CBS News America Decides. Donald Trump is claiming victory as he nears the 270 Electoral College votes needed to become the nation's 47th president in history. Trump spoke to supporters in his election night campaign headquarters in West Palm Beach, Florida, on stage surrounded by family. Here's some of that.
Political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have. This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again. And in addition to having won the battleground states of North Carolina, I love these places. Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. We are now winning in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska, which would result in us carrying at least 315 electoral votes, but it's much easier doing what the networks did or whoever called it, because there was no other path. There was no other path to victory. We also have won the popular vote. That was great.
Mr. Trump is expected to have a full grasp of power, with Republicans projected to take control of the Senate. The House has not been called. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching CBS News, America Decides.
Superstar approaching. I can see clearly now that the rain is gone. That's right. Let's do it. Let's do this. I can see clearly now that the rain is gone. Superstar approaching. Superstar approaching. Just get your popcorn and get ready. Come on, Julia. Oh yeah, I will if you will. You go, gal. Yeah, boy.
If you can't get into the market, it's okay. Renting is fine.
Box, oh, it's bad. Screw cap, oh, it's bad. It's not true.
We are making a wonderful lemony chicken.
Dark club. I wonder what Serena's doing. I wonder how Serena is feeling. That's a really good question. No one's asked me that yet.
You're 70 years old, Sally? Yeah. I'm the 20th one.
She's the first black woman on the Supreme Court, and she's determined she won't be the last. Welcome back to CBS News Election 2024. Good morning. It is 3:30 a.m. in the East, 12:30 in the West. We have been on the air for 9 hours straight covering this election, and it has been a very big night for Donald Trump and the Republican Party, as the former president appears to be headed for re-election. He declared victory in the past hour in a speech to supporters in Florida. And in the race to 270 electoral votes, Trump's received 266. Kamala Harris has 218. We're just waiting for some more votes to come in before calling the remainder of these states. And we want to go behind the numbers to see how Trump put together this coalition. John Dickerson and his team have been looking at the exit polls. John?
I picked out 3 things. There's a lot of things, and we'll have plenty of days to talk about them. But let's just start. We've talked about it before. Let's just talk about the gender gap, or really most specifically the vote for president among women. So the vice president got 54% of the vote, and Donald Trump got 44% of the vote. So Kamala Harris got 10 points more than Donald Trump, but Joe Biden got 15 points more. This is a post-Roe going away, post the conviction of Donald Trump.
It's almost inexplicable.
Well, it's going to require a lot of, it'd be a really interesting conversation, because remember in 2020, the number of women who were turned off by Donald Trump. Well, they have in some measure come back. He has done better with them. So that is, that's not just an area where the vice president didn't perform, but he performed better. And again, what were considered his liabilities that he didn't bother fixing, turns out they weren't liabilities. So again, it's an affirmation of his gut instincts, which will matter when he's in office, when he's going to be following those gut instincts, and perhaps listening to no one else. Now let's look at the vote for president in white non-college. This is a group that we knew Donald Trump was going to win. He won it handily, 31 points better than Kamala Harris. This is the heart of the Trump coalition, the people he says his presidency will be aimed towards. He did as strongly with them, to use a Donald Trump word, as he needed to. So he turned out his. So Kamala Harris didn't turn out her important supporter, he turned out his. And then finally, Latino voters, because, and this is a stand-in really for the growth that
45%.
That exactly 45% for Donald Trump. He got 32% in 2020.
And I remember before that, George W. Bush had the high water mark at 40%.
Right. Yeah. And so this is a part, and Trump also did well with African Americans, better with African Americans than a Republican has done before, did particularly well with African American men. This is a part of that new coalition that we're talking about, and that emerged out of his victory tonight, and that it's not just his victory, it's the Senate candidates, House candidates. That's when people talk about a realignment. This is the beginning. These are some of the elements of that realignment.
Yeah, Ed, what makes up that realignment in the Republican Party?
Well, we've been told over the last several months that in order to win the White House again, Democrats would have to hit 60% among Latinos. So they clearly weren't able to do that. And as Leslie was saying earlier, as we've seen in these exit polls, it's economic concerns. These people don't want to be talked to anymore as minorities. They want to be talked to as Americans who worry about the bottom line, and who are concerned about their jobs, concerned about their kids' future. And I remember a guy I met in Phoenix who runs a hot dog stand. We had him on the evening news and said all sorts of things about how he didn't like former President Trump's rhetoric, but then turned around and said, but I don't know if I can vote for her.
One of the things he did,
he said that all these years Democrats have asked for my vote and said they were going to work on immigration and work on improving my life, and I don't believe that it's happened. I tried contacting Aureliano today to figure out who he voted for. He hasn't told us, but I suspect it was Donald Trump.
If you talk to many fervent Trump supporters, one thing that they will say, in addition to liking his economic policies and some of his bravado or machismo, whatever you want to call it, they've also said that what they don't like are the quote-unquote woke policies of the Democratic Party.
Yep.
How much does that play into it?
It's good. If you look at all this, the fact that they couldn't win women, the fact that they couldn't hold on to their Latino coalition, there's going to be a big reckoning about whether or not there was too much discussion about that over the last several years. Yes.
I know. So, Ed, what is a lesson, do you think, for the Democratic Party from what happened in 2016 to what is happening today in 2024?
I mean,
what are the lessons here?
Well, they were identity politics.
Right. Yeah.
But I will say, Kamala Harris really shifted the way that she campaigned for Latinos, to target Latinos.
Yeah, no, it just struck me in the minute, forgive me, it's just, as soon as I said that, I had forgotten that if you look at how much money the Republicans spent on that issue about transgenderists. Yes. Did that weigh with women or non-college educated?
Was that with Latinos? If they did it, and one of the few ads they did in Spanish language was on this issue, and that sells.
Although
it ran during football a lot, right? Football.
Although as bad as Harris's numbers are in other areas, when the exit polls asked, are Kamala Harris's views too extreme? Only 46% said yes, 51 no. For Trump, the extreme question, 55 said yes, 43 no. The thing is, for Trump, there are a lot of people for whom some of his voters, I haven't seen the crosstabs, who would say, well, extreme is fine. Being too extreme is fine. Can I just say one other thing? One other dog that didn't bark. Republicans for Harris. Kamala Harris spent a lot of time campaigning, a lot with Liz Cheney. Only 5% of Republicans in the exit polls voted for Harris. It was 6% for Biden in 2020. All of those Republicans that were going to come over to the
she brought them all to Pennsylvania. They were in Bucks County, weren't they? They're all on stage with her.
I was there.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I think Bucks County. Look, what you got to understand about the people, the traditional Republican in Bucks County. I grew up watching these people. Is that they vote with their wallet. They are economically driven. They have business jobs at suburban office parks in Princeton, New Jersey. They go to New York City on New Jersey Transit every day, or down to Philadelphia.
Bring bagels back for the weekend.
Every day, all of this toasted with cheese, maybe a pork roll and cheese. These are people who care about the Eagles and care about their financial interests, and they care about their communities, but they are Republicans. And they're Republicans because they want to pay lower taxes, and they move to Bucks County, not to Philadelphia, the city, or not to New York, because they want to have a good standard of living, and they want to pay lower taxes. They want to not have to spend a lot of money.
So, Bob, where was that secret women Republican vote we kept hearing about? That they're going to say one thing to their friends and their spouses, but they're going to get in the booth and they're going to make another decision. What happened to them?
I never saw it.
Yeah.
I never saw it.
You never thought that was the thing.
That's why.
I never thought it was the thing.
That's why Harris.
I didn't think it was the thing. I never saw it.
That's why Harris only won women with 10 by 10 points.
Yeah. It's going to be one of the biggest miscalculations. She could have been spending time on this. Somebody pointed out today, there are 9 HBCUs in North Carolina. You know how many of them she visited? 1. Imagine if she'd been spending time doing that instead of hanging out with Liz Cheney in the Midwest. Could have been a different story tonight. And there are going to be all sorts of conversations about that. Should she have doubled down on the base and not worried about fighting Republican women?
I don't even know that they could tell you what the base is tonight, Ed.
Right. Clearly.
I think if the strategy was to double down on the base and you pulled the, Soju from Kamala Harris's campaign, they could not tell you who that base is right now.
Well, look, I said this, to Gail when we were on your show yesterday morning. The fundamentals of this race have always favored Donald Trump. 2/3 of the Republican Party said that this country is headed in the wrong direction. When that's the case, they throw out the incumbent party, and that is the Biden-Harris administration.
I just want to say, throughout this, our CBS polling from Anthony Salvanto's unit has been on the money to say it will be the economy, the economy, the economy. Economy, comma, inflation, actually, not just economy. And that would be such a driving force, and the border. And he had warned us for months that the momentum the Democrats thought they were getting off of abortion had tapped out weeks ago, that they weren't seeing that. And yet we heard from the Harris campaign, no. We also heard from the Harris campaign, no, you are wrong, when you see that the support has tapped out on the issue of the state of democracy. That was something late in the campaign they transitioned back to. That was the closing argument alongside Liz Cheney. So it's like people were just reading completely different signals.
The democracy point, I'll show some self-awareness here. I spent a year of my life digging into January 6th. I believe, based on my reporting, it was a very serious moment in American history. You had a president of the United States work to pressure his party and his vice president to overturn the election. Working with Bob Woodward, we reported that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff believed President Trump was in serious mental decline. It was in threat of misusing the military in the final days in a way that was somewhat comparable to Nixon and concerns in August '74, but far worse in the eyes of Milley and others. January 6th, for Congresswoman Cheney, for others who have studied it, the January 6th committee was this explosion in American democracy. But as a reporter, I must also acknowledge, even if I found this to be serious based on my reporting, when I was on the campaign trail in 2024 and in 2022, when I was talking to Republican voters, centrist voters, Democratic voters, even though Democrats took a bit of a different view, many voters did not process January 6, 2021 as a grave moment in American democracy. And because of that, a lot of Republican voters are not turning on the character and conduct question.
How is that possible, though, Bob? When you look at those pictures, I think that's what many people are grappling with. You look at January 6th, he characterized it as a protest of love. He characterized it as patriots. Yet, you're right when you say that is not how people saw that. How is that possible?
It's possible because there are many people who amplify Trump's point of view.
They thread the needle between separating him, Donald Trump, from the people who carried out the violence. That's what you often hear mainstream Republicans say. Prosecute those who broke the law.
I'm wondering kind of what flows from that, because one of the things that we have heard about the people surrounding Donald Trump is the idea of retribution. And he has talked about retribution. There has even been a so-called secretary of retribution, where all of those who have wronged Donald Trump will face retribution, punishment, whatever it may be, from the former president, future president, and the White House. How will the Justice Department in some ways be changed and perhaps weaponized against those enemies?
I mean, he has, I just was pulling some of the things he said in the last few months on perhaps even the least threatening end, and this is threatening revoking broadcast licenses for broadcast networks, including the threat to revoke this one, going after what he calls the enemy within of his political rivals by name, Biden, Pelosi, the entire, quote, Biden crime family. He says he would fire special counsel Jack Smith within 2 seconds of taking office. As we were saying earlier, he called for the televised military tribunal of Liz Cheney. We started this conversation, John, when you questioned whether the checks in place would keep him in check. I wonder if there's anyone left around him right now who would even impose some of those checks. The John Kellys and the Mark Milleys are gone. Those are the people who were the checks before.
All of the list of retribution things he will perhaps not get to, not because he's checked, but because he just doesn't want to bother with follow through. I mean, some of these things are actually hard to follow through. He may just have other things to
And there's
do.
a lot of bluster.
One of the things, right, signal sending too. What I wondered, Bob, is the Liz Cheney wing of the party big? Is it even big enough to fit on an airport shuttle bus, or does it even exist anymore? I mean, do we need a new language to talk about that portion of the Republican Party?
Well, those shuttle buses have at least 14 seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, so an airport shuttle bus.
Just
Are there enough, are there 14 seats, Bob?
The way we think about the shape of the Republican Party and how small that is and kind of what role it plays.
It's not even about whether we should rethink. We are being forced to rethink.
Yeah. So what do we think?
It would almost be like if you talked about the Republican Party today in terms of all its positioning and went back to Theodore Roosevelt or Lincoln, or if you were a Democrat today talking about John F. Kennedy. The Republican Party of Mitt Romney is not the and George H.W. Bush. And George W. Bush is not the Republican Party of Donald Trump. Donald Trump has stolen the issues from the Democrats: trade, manufacturing, this foreign policy approach, which is the opposite of a muscular interventionist approach.
An isolationist.
He wouldn't term it that way, but yes, I mean, America first, as he puts it, which is an echo of what we heard in the 1930s from Charles Lindbergh. You're seeing a total overhaul of the Republican Party, and when you're the nominee 3 times, that's like a hammer against the head, politically speaking. They're banging the point again and again that it's not Romney's party, Cheney's party, Bush's party, and we've covered this.
No, but is it dead? Like, yes, it's dead.
It's dead in the sense of the voters we've covered believe that party is dead and they don't want to support it anymore.
And this is an excellent conversation for a podcast. When we return, more from our amazing team. You're watching CBS News America Decides.
Tell me what you want from this. I want to be a star. I want to solve this crime, but we can only do it with your help.
I want to be normal. This is the moment I've been waiting for. Who knows where it will be?
What is it? Bugs, guns, gangs?
I promised myself I wouldn't get dragged back in.
The killer is telling us the rules of the game.
I've got to make it.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
On our places, bright, shining faces.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my 2 good friends, and we talk about the world.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go, with a 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes, real lives, real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
Imagine yourself in Manhattan with no police, no army, no mayor.
The people of Haiti stare down poverty, corruption, natural disasters, and violence.
90% of the guns that are used by gangs in Haiti are American guns.
But with an unbreakable spirit and eternal optimism.
There are days where I cry, but we can't be discouraged. We still believe in Haiti.
They're still able to look ahead with hope.
Haiti is on the brink of transformation, a radical shift. Haitians are coming together and saying things must change.
Fighting for Haiti, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Come on, Julia. Oh, yeah, I will if you will. You know, yeah.
Superstar approaching, superstar approaching.
I want to make sure that my voice is heard, but also lift up other voices. Hey, some love, baby.
We'll see you 7 o'clock sharp. Sunday morning, a visit with the Wayans at...
It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. And we're going to try, we have to try, and it's going to happen. Success will bring us together. I've seen that.
We should.
And Donald Trump tonight giving his remarks there in West Palm Beach earlier tonight and declaring a victory. Our CBS News data desk has a race update now. Nevada is lean Republican. That is the 7th of the battleground states, which was the last to close, and that is lean Republican. There's also a key Senate race in Nevada that I would love to see what those numbers are now. It could result, there we see Sam Brown, a veteran, a West Point graduate, who you can see was injured and then is running for the United States Senate, spoke at the Republican National Convention in a very tight contest there against Jackie Rosen. Want to go to Major Garrett at the data desk. Major?
Yes, Nora, so let's walk through Nevada and why we have created this lean Trump designation for Nevada. Let's go to the model. Show you what the model is right now. It shows, as you can see at home, a very, very narrow band, almost an impossible band, but we still don't have quite enough vote in to make an absolute declaration. But the needs of Kamala Harris in Nevada are pronounced. 66% of the outstanding vote is what we estimate that she needs, and well, you can see the sizable gap here. This is a lean Nevada, but it is moving very, very much in the for Trump and confirmed category. We're just waiting for a little bit of more vote to come in on that for absolute clarity. You mentioned the Senate race, Nora. I will jump to that very quickly to show you where things are statewide. We'll show you the needs for Jackie Rosen, the incumbent, 49% of the outstanding vote. We project 35% based on our estimates. So right now, Sam Brown, the challenger, has the edge in that Senate race, and that would be a significant pickup for Republicans, and that's putting it mildly.
Really interesting to see that contest there in Nevada. All right, and what's the very latest in Arizona?
So Arizona is, as we have, Chris Van Cleve has talked about this, David Becker has reinforced this, we're just getting slight tick-ups. In the last, I would say, hour and a half, we've gotten 3% more of the Arizona vote in. This is the Senate race. Let me clear that and get back to President real quick. Okay, we have 48% for the Vice President, 50% former President Trump. Let me go to the outstanding votes. You see where it is. Maricopa County, how much is outstanding in Maricopa County? You see 1 million votes there. How about in Pima County with Tucson, 260,000? That's why we don't have enough. But let's clear that and go to the model. What's the model we have in Arizona? See, a very wide range, could go in lots of different directions. That's why we haven't had a call yet, but we do have a sort of needs-based thing for the Vice President in Arizona. 52%. We have her at 50%. So again, that is not trending well for the Vice President. It hasn't been for the last hour or so, but again, the vote is just trickling in, so we don't have a substantial alteration in the projection for Arizona, but it is not looking well. And Arizona tends to trend off of Nevada, and the results in Nevada certainly do not look good for the Vice President. Arizona beginning to trend ever so slightly in that negative direction for the Vice President as well.
So, Major, what battleground state looks good for Kamala Harris tonight? I know, I think you're thinking through them.
No, there is no really good answer for that right now. I mean, even Michigan, which theoretically looks okay, 66%, 53% okay. That's sort of in the ballpark, but nothing really looks that great in terms of the remaining toss-up or lean states. Let's go to Wisconsin. Needs 78%, 62% is our estimate. I mean, it just doesn't look that great. Pennsylvania's already gone. Arizona, I've already worked through Arizona, Nevada. I just went through Wisconsin, Michigan. They're in a theoretical range, but only theoretical. There is no uncalled state that form the backbone of the uncalled battlegrounds that look positive or even slightly positive for the vice president at this hour. The only one that is in that category would be Arizona.
Truly remarkable what looks like a sweeping victory for Donald Trump, and certainly he will claim the mandate from the results tonight. Let's bring in CBS News political contributor Joel Payne. Joel, as you see these numbers, your take on the soul searching that's going on in the Democratic Party?
Well, I'll get to the soul searching in a second. Just going back to what Major was saying, in these states, Nevada in particular, I was looking at that none of the above vote, which was something that I was tracking before this race. It looks like at the Senate race, it could have a real impact. I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 2.5% of the vote. Right now, none of the above, which in a state like Nevada you can do. So I think that that's something to watch and something to track there. Also, just the impact of third parties. It was a big discussion earlier in this cycle. I think obviously we got to count more votes and see how that comes out in key places. But I've talked to folks on the ground in Michigan who said in places like Dearborn, Jill Stein appears to have shown up strongly. We know that Jill Stein had an impact on the 2016 race. It seems like she's had some sort of impact in 2024. Whether that's determinative in the final, winners and losers, we'll see. But wanted to also just remind us of the impact of third parties in this cycle as well.
It's an excellent point. Joel Payne, thank you so much. And just to remind everyone, Donald Trump appeared before many of his supporters in West Palm Beach earlier tonight, promising to fix everything in his word. He praised his supporters as the, quote, greatest political movement all time. He spoke after he was projected the winner in the state of Pennsylvania, that crucial battleground state, the biggest electoral prize of the night with its 19 electoral votes. Also the projected winner in North Carolina and Georgia, and doing well in the other swing states tonight. We have not heard from the vice president tonight. Her campaign co-chair appeared before supporters at her alma mater, Howard University, earlier, and said that they would not hear from the vice president, so it is expected we could hear from her later today. Let's talk about some of the results that we're seeing and behind these numbers with the exit polls. John Dickerson.
Let's look at where Vice President Harris did not do well. These are part of the Democratic coalition. We've talked about it all night. You have to hold your coalition, eat into the other person's coalition. Well, here's the Democratic coalition in 3 areas where the vice president did not do well. Starting at the top with Latino voters. In 2020, Joe Biden got 65% of Latino voters. In 2024, the vice president only got 53%. Moving down from there, young voters. Joe Biden got 60% of young voters in 2020. Kamala Harris only got 55% of those young voters. And then with women, we've talked about it. 57% of the female vote was what Joe Biden got in 2020. And in 2024, Harris got only 54% of that vote. Now let's look quickly at the Republican coalition where Trump held support. Okay, conservative voters, he did even better than he had done in 2020, up at 89%. White evangelicals doing even better among white evangelicals than he had before. And then white no college, tiny bit worse, but not really even, that would basically be considered flat. So that's how you win elections.
Really interesting, John Dickerson. Thank you. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. You're watching CBS News, America Decides, Election 2024.
did you say the word crisis?
You're not answering my question.
Is that scary?
Does that make sense?
What does that mean to you? That makes sense. What's your response?
It's time for the CBS News original 60 Minutes, Sunday on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
There is no more room in our city.
New York City is receiving record numbers of migrants.
Today, we're going to have more than 500 adults and children come through that door.
Tensions rise as shelters reach max capacity.
We don't have to take care of them.
CBS Reports goes inside a crisis cities and families are facing as they fight to survive.
The United States still has that glimmer of hope for people to come here.
Fighting for a future. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Like a John Grisham novel.
A gripping true crime original. 48 hours. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Come on, Julia. Oh, yeah, I will if you will. You go down. Superstar approaching, superstar approaching.
I want to make sure that my voice is heard, but also lift up other voices. Hey, some love, baby.
We'll see you 7 o'clock sharp. That's right. Let's do it. Let's do this. I can see clearly now. Superstar approaching, superstar approaching.
Just get your popcorn and get ready.
Come on, Julia. Oh, yeah, I will if you will. You go down. Yeah, boy.
If you can't get into the market, it's okay. Renting is fine.
Box, oh, it's bad. Screw cap, oh, it's bad. It's not true.
We are making a wonderful lemony chicken.
I wonder what Serena's doing. I wonder how Serena is feeling. That's a really good question. No one's asked me that yet.
You're 70 years old? Yeah. I'm 21.
We'll see you 7 o'clock sharp.
Welcome back to CBS News election night coverage. We're still on the air early this morning because we are waiting for a vote count that could put Donald Trump over the top. I want to go to Scott McFarland, who has an update on some of the Republican congressmen who voted to impeach Trump back in 2021.
There were 10 U.S. House Republicans who voted to impeach Donald Trump after January 6th, in that second impeachment. 8 of them were purged out of the House Republican Conference long ago, Liz Cheney being one of them. They lost primaries, or they simply retired, or moved on to other things. There were 2 remaining, and they're on that bottom row. Dan Newhouse of Washington State, the Washington 4th District, and David Valadao of the California 22nd. They are both up for re-election tonight. These are the remaining impeachment votes against Donald Trump. Both of them are in competitive races. It's actually a quirky race for Dan Newhouse. It's Republican on Republican, the nature of how Washington State conducts its general elections. And Trump very vocally endorsed Dan Newhouse's challenger. David Valadao's in that Central Valley area of California where it will take days before we get a sense as to where that vote's going. Too early to give a projection, but David Valadao has found himself to be resilient even in the Trump era.
But you're pointing that out to show how much of a stranglehold Trump has on the Republican Party. Or a chokehold.
These are the dissenters, and Dan Newhouse has certainly softened his position on that impeachment vote. And if he survives tonight, there's no indication he's going to reaffirm any concerns he had about January 6th.
You know what I wonder is what the resistance looks like in the Democratic Party. We were talking about the various things that might not check Donald Trump within his own party, but in the Democratic Party, if you're trying to figure out how do we respond to what we've learned about the electorate and our place in it, you first of all have to figure out what the electorate is now, because you've lost within some of your constituency. But then secondly, when you attack Donald Trump in the future, say, as Bob was talking earlier about January 6th, if that turned out to be what is the clearest case of malfeasance as a president, if that didn't work politically, what do you base your arguments on when you're criticizing Donald Trump going forward? And do you have to worry You know, I can say that Donald Trump is breaking all these norms and is breaking his oath and doing all these things, but is that really going to either hurt me politically or is just nobody going to listen? And if you're not making those arguments as a Democrat because you don't think it's going to be useful, then does that remove another
But
break?
haven't the voters spoken? At the center of Kamala Harris's argument was that he is unchecked, that he is unhinged, that he is dangerous as a president, and as his former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and his former chief of staff called him a fascist or close to a fascist. That argument was made pretty forcefully, and the voters tonight have said that's not a concern.
Democrats not only made a January 6th argument as part of their campaign, they used the footage in their campaign ads, not just against Trump, but against other Republicans they did not successfully surmount tonight. So if this has been a referendum, it has been a referendum on January 6th, and the American public has made its voice heard.
But the system is supposed to be designed so that on things that are really top shelf, you know, things like protecting the Constitution, the voice of the voters is informative, but shouldn't rule the day on everything. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be designed. Now, we've gotten well away from that, but I guess my argument is that for Democrats, they're more likely to say that the people have spoken and we're going to have to find a new argument and therefore make fewer norm-based, values-based, constitution-based arguments.
Well, that's why the judicial branch is separate.
Right, and supposedly the legislative branch.
Well, I mean, you have for months been hearing these whispers from Senate Republicans about don't worry, we will still be able to put together responsible individuals who could step into those roles to represent America on the world stage, to, you know, be the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Treasury. You have those promises. So do we see that cobbling together in the next few days? We already know there isn't a lot of work being done with the transition team in a real way. We have some of the requirements under law. Transitions are supposed to go through documents to be signed and the like that haven't been fully moved forward with for the Trump team. But I think one of the other things that keeps standing out to me tonight is just two things. One, is the information environment such that the voters aren't hearing the messages that the campaigns are trying to send down and out because they live in a siloed information environment or just a more diffuse one or a platform owned by a big supporter of one of the candidates. And the other one is, you know, any country I have ever covered anywhere in the world, people vote on the 3 feet in front of them and the kitchen table they sit down at every day. And the economic issues are just so fundamental, and the experience of that. And you know, Nora, you said earlier, maybe we overfocus on grocery prices. I think, you know, Donald Trump campaigns saying he's going to lower the price of bacon. The President of the United States has nothing to do with the price of bacon.
Or eggs, for that matter.
Or eggs, or any of it. But it's saying, I get you're uncomfortable, even though the head of the Federal Reserve and those guys, you don't quite know what they do back in Washington, but they're making your house more expensive because they're hiking up more, you know. You don't get that. You don't get the national number where Joe Biden is telling you, look, inflation is moderating and coming down, but you understand your grocery cart or your gas tank. And that personal experience just seems to be what at least people are using to justify their vote for Donald Trump when they're citing the economy.
You know, two other things that have just occurred to me in this conversation about what a second Trump administration is going to be like. Confirmations, they're going to zoom through the Senate, which is, you know, a president wants to have their team on the field. He's going to have his team on the field,
and it's been pretty broken,
and without much, you know, irritation from the Senate. The other thing is Fed chairman is going to be hearing from the president in a way we haven't had in the past.
And what has right? And so, what has Donald Trump said specifically about this Fed chair, Jerome Powell?
Well, he appointed this Fed chair, Jerome Powell, originally, but has soured on him. He has said that he will make calls, that he will try and believes that the President of the United States should influence. Look, I mean, people who follow the markets and the economy would say that the Federal Reserve Chair is far more powerful than the President of the United States when it comes to influencing the global economy. And Donald Trump is saying, I'm going to be the guy telling him what to do. Now, will the Fed actually do that? They're pretty... Maybe that's next to the courts, one of the few places that has tried to really push back on political influence. Does that hold?
Although that's tricky because, of course, they have to deal with expectations.
Could a hand-picked successor to Jerome Powell quickly lower interest rates?
Well, they'd have to go to like tomorrow or today, Wednesday, when the Fed meets, they actually have to go in conference. So you can't unilaterally decide. So, but to your point, that who do you appoint as governors and presidents, you can influence it over time.
The wild thing about this margin in the Senate too is not only will they get confirmed, but some Republicans will be able to afford to vote no if they need to, and there may still be enough Republican votes there for them. I mean, the party has total domination now and space for its most vulnerable members going into the 2026 cycle.
Yeah.
I think one of the concerns that Democrats or people who oppose Donald Trump or who are concerned about a Donald Trump presidency will have questions about is what about these criminal cases that he faces? Scott, you follow them so closely. Give us a look ahead. I mean, there is a sentencing coming up later this month in November.
It's always possible. His team has been pretty adroit in getting delays and getting things pushed back. They could try to do that, get it pushed back January 20th.
This is in the Hush Money Stormy Daniels case.
That's right. The federal prosecution, the one in Florida that was dismissed by the judge appointed by Trump, Eileen Cannon, is in the appeals process. The special counsel is trying to resuscitate it. No firm deadlines there. The Washington, D.C. case for election subversion for 2020 is not in a holding pattern, but not supposed to come to fruition until 2025 or 2026. That case is going to be cut off January 20th, 2025, based on what Trump has said. But all that's there. All of that is in a particularly fragile position.
Could the New York judge, does he have to factor in the fact that the guy just won the White House? So could he, even without his lawyers motioning, could he just go, well, can't really do anything about this now because there's other circumstances arisen.
You can see any number of ways the Trump defense team could try to mechanize this towards getting a delay or getting some type of pushback until after the presidential term, making an argument that there's going to be issues of constitutionality. Also, I'm going to be a little busy in November and December keeping this transition going, keeping the country safe. Do you really want to lock me up?
And it could become a serious constitutional crisis that the Supreme Court would ultimately have to weigh in. Are you going to allow a local judge to imprison the president-elect of the United States? Doesn't seem like something the local judge would have full say over, constitutionally speaking. Also, politically speaking, I covered that entire trial. Two things I noticed. One, almost nobody showed up to that trial outside. I was there every time. Trump was there. No one came to protest, maybe a few scattered protests. No one came really in support in a mass way. It was like there was indifference across the political spectrum. Know who did show up? The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, and others, to show solidarity with Donald Trump. And now they have all of this power in Washington. So yes, it's a major legal crossroads for Trump. But ultimately, I've spoken to his lawyers. They believe this judge will do whatever he's going to do, but they don't believe Trump will ever serve a day in prison.
Because the judge will do what he'll do, and then when Trump is in office, he'll have his Justice Department issue a Office of Legal Counsel ruling that says you can't put a president in jail or whatever, and then it'll go to the Supreme Court.
And speaking of the Supreme Court, with this kind of Senate majority that's possible here, if there is a vacancy on the high court, this court could move even further to the right.
One of the other interesting things that we're talking about is when Donald Trump and that vote is certified, the person in Congress is the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. What a scene that will be.
I've spoken to Dan Quayle about, people close to Quayle say that's a tough moment when you oversee your own laws. Mike Pence consulted with Quayle in the run-up to January 6th. Not easy to oversee your own laws. Vice President Harris will have to be the one to oversee the process.
Al Gore did it, and this is the other thing we haven't talked about. She is the vice president. Vice presidents don't normally win presidential elections, right? And she had an opportunity to distance herself, never did, and is paying the price for it. But you're right. The image of her standing there with probably Speaker Johnson or Speaker Jeffries, who knows?
We have to entertain this conversation of what check or balances are going to be on the 47th president. We don't know. The U.S. House.
The United States military is one of the few sort of pillars of our democracy that has tried, to remain out of the political fray, but we have seen even that start to get crossed. There was a lot of worry among some of the retired military leaders who came back to serve. I'm thinking of Secretary Mattis, formerly General Mattis, agreeing to serve as a political appointee in the Trump administration. Others since then, John Kelly, who came out recently in a very vocal way against Donald Trump, the four-star who served as the Homeland Security Secretary and Chief of Staff. They worried a lot about wading into that political space, but at the time, some took those jobs saying, I need to be there to stand up for the country and to teach this person who hasn't been through politics what this is all about. Who is that moderating force now? We don't know the answer, but there are some who are already criticizing military leaders for having made that step in and worry that even that last sort of institution may become politicized. And it's why some of them cited it as reasons for not speaking out.
We still have some battlegrounds left to be decided. Let's bring in Major Garrett. He is at the data desk. Major?
So let's talk about Arizona and one of the themes that has flowed through the conversation at the big desk tonight, which is what effect would referenda dealing with access to reproductive health have on the larger complex of races within that given battleground state. Arizona is an apt way to view that question and get an answer. So we have 55% of the vote in Arizona in. You can see that up in the far corner. Presidential race, we rate a toss-up. I just went through the math on that a little bit ago. The Senate race, Lee and Ruben Gallego. The abortion rights referendum, we have already said, is going to prevail. Look at the difference. It's not very hard to notice. 62.3% for that. Trump leading currently, 50.8, but it's very close. It is evident that those who supported that initiative did not necessarily transfer that support, as Democrats hoped, to Vice President Harris. They were regarded independently of one another. As has been said at the big desk, you can vote your conscience on this question and also apply your judgment about these other two matters, meaning Trump or Harris. One other thing to point out, it is quite clear that though not a super large number of Arizonans, but some not insignificant number voted for Trump and Ruben Gallego. That was probably not on many people's bingo cards a month or two ago, but it has proven out to be something worth noting in Arizona.
Major Garrett, thank you. You know, one of the interesting things as we look at what's behind a Trump victory tonight are these demographic groups. And I'm just looking at the Associated Press, noting that Black voters, men and women, have been the bedrock of the Democratic Party, as well as the Latino vote, as well as young voters. But the preliminary data from AP Votecast suggests that all these groups were shifting in Trump's direction. What's behind that economic message, I believe, that we saw in those vote numbers, but that's striking to see this coalition shift towards Trump.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
story.
That's the story of the night. Is a big, not only the story of the night is a massive historic comeback of a politician who has completely rewritten a party, brought new members into the House and Senate, and also reorganized the coalitions in American politics more along education lines. The old lines of certainly of race have been upended, and it'll be fascinating to see how both parties interpret this and what can be addressed outside of Donald Trump. In other words, how they deal with these coalitions, how permanent they think they are, whether they think this is just a particular instance where voters are unhappy about an economic period and these aren't permanent changes. And the people who make that conclusion might be dead wrong.
One thing I constantly noticed throughout reporting on this campaign was when I met a voter and they cast themselves as an outsider in America, they almost always said they were voting for Trump. And when they cast themselves as someone who was an insider in American life, in terms of education, finances, family structure, they were usually a Harris voter or a Biden voter. It's not even ideology, it's a sense of feeling I often detect from voters. They feel like outsiders in their own country, culturally, religiously, politically, economically, and that leads them to look to someone who they believe is a weapon against those who are on the inside and keeping them out.
One thing that has stood out to me in this campaign as well, and Joel Payne touched on this when he pointed to Afghanistan, which for the Biden administration has become this attack point for Republicans, but a data point at which, and being able to execute, by the way, he was executing the Trump administration's deal with the Taliban, but it was the demonstration to the world that led these doors to be opened, that led to criticism apparently from some, that Vladimir Putin walks through those doors. But when you look at states like Michigan, you've got, and I know, Ed, you spent so much time there, you've got to wonder, when I heard, Jill Stein and these third-party candidates being cited, how much did the alienation of Arab and Muslim voters, not necessarily going affirmatively for Trump, but saying, you don't see me or hear me in the message I'm sending to you, Democrats. We look at those uncommitted voters who just either went third party or possibly didn't show up at all. I mean, we'll be looking at that. You look at, by the way, the border is a massive national security policy. We like to say foreign policy doesn't matter. It did in many ways in this. And you look at those questions of how Arizona or some of these other states might fare if there had been different national security policies.
You could argue it was Arab voters and Muslim voters in Michigan, it was Latino voters in Arizona saying, you've been asking for my votes every 4 years.
And you took
did nothing to help me. You've been taking me for granted. Screw you. I'm voting for the other guy.
And Ukraine arguably became almost a proxy, I would say, for some Republicans as a way to argue that they were economically frustrated. Why are you spending money there? I need it here.
Which is as if it were 20 years ago when it was the left saying, why are you spending all this money in Iraq and holding it against your stuff?
What was J.D. Vance's famous word or infamous word on Steve Bannon's radio show podcast? I don't care about Ukraine.
Right.
In terms of as a political or foreign policy project for the United States.
Whereas we have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris arguing that this is in many ways an existential threat to the entire Western order, to democracy itself. Vladimir Putin.
But even that phrase, Western order.
I know.
It's something maybe people in Washington continue to articulate as something that's important to them, but I never hear it. The concept of the West, Europe, these things that galvanized American policy since World War II, you never hear it on the lips of voters.
Yeah, interesting. I was just with the dean of a prestigious university that said that has an acceptance rate of some 10%, and he said most of the students there don't know enough about World War II. So maybe that's why even people getting into prestigious universities don't remember what happened in World War II. Anyway, that's a podcast conversation as well. But for now, let's take a break. You're watching CBS News America Decides, Election 2024. We'll be right back with a history lesson and more.
When your dates are flexible, but a house with a pool is a must. Flexible date search with Verbo.
Sports betting as a way to escape, when in reality I'm choosing self-destruction. Whatever I had left was gone.
The purpose of the industry is to get you to play to extinction. And that means until all your money is gone.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
On our places, bright shining faces.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my two good friends and we talk about the world.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go, with a 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes, real lives, real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
Imagine yourself in Manhattan with no police, no army, no mayor.
The people of Haiti stare down poverty, corruption, natural disasters, and violence.
90% of the guns that are used by gangs in Haiti are American guns.
But with an unbreakable spirit and eternal optimism.
There are days where I cry, but we can't be discouraged. We still believe in Haiti.
They're still able to look ahead with hope.
Haiti is on the brink of transformation, a radical shift. Nations are coming together and saying things must change.
Fighting for Haiti, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
I can't see clearly.
CBS Mornings Plus, clearly more news, more smart conversation,
More money-saving tips, more recipes,
more uplifting ways to get you on your way.
plus more sports, more weather.
Clearly more CBS Mornings.
Sunshine in your eyes.
snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. CBS Sports HQ.
Welcome back to CBS News coverage of America Decides 2024. We have been on the air, I should say, for 10 hours now that it's getting difficult to put the words together, as you just witnessed. But what we have been on this journey together tonight is watching how America has voted, and it has been a strong night for Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Donald Trump doing quite well in all of these 7 battleground states that we've been watching in these several months of this campaign. Republicans taking the Senate and flipping the Senate in their favor with a number of these candidates. Still some questions about how large their majority will be in the United States Senate. At this hour, we have not called the presidency yet for Donald Trump because we're waiting for some more votes to come in. But Donald Trump has already declared victory several hours ago, appearing before thousands of his supporters in West Palm Beach, noting that this has been the greatest, according to him, the greatest political movement of all time. Let's bring in CBS News political contributor Joel Payne. Joel?
Wanted to just talk a little bit about how we got here in terms of, Democrats and maybe some of the arguments that they lost. I actually have a feeling that Democrats lost the argument on Trump's first term. If you look at some of the retrospective job approvals, over the course of this race, Trump has steadily improved his positioning. So he was, ended the 2020 term in lower regard than he is now. And I think that Democrats lost the thread on some of the things that Donald Trump was unpopular for, like trying to kill Obamacare. That was something that was a vulnerability for Donald Trump. Maybe you want to top that up more. The TCJA, giving tax breaks to the wealthy and the well-connected. That's a thing that Democrats like to talk about. Seems like maybe the voters feel like Democrats got away from talking about those things and maybe talked about some of these tertiary things that are not material to people's bottom line. And so that losing of the argument about Trump's first term is something I'm also hearing from Democrats as well, as folks are trying to pick up the pieces after what's been a tough night.
Joel, it's an excellent point. When I was in Kalamazoo, Michigan, with the vice president, and I sort of went around and started speaking with voters that were there, I actually asked, and it was an African-American male, probably in his mid-50s, and I said, so what do you want to hear from the vice president today? And he said, well, I actually kind of want to hear a little bit more about what she would do. Yeah. And I wonder also if she might talk a little bit about, because I think people have amnesia about what Donald Trump's term was like. But even though he was there at a rally, was planning to vote, he said he wanted to hear more from her. And so making that case, which takes time, and prosecuting, it's the dual-edged story of prosecuting the case against your opponent, which they largely did on a character front. But I never heard the argument very forcefully made, except by Barack Obama, on the economic front. Remember, Barack Obama in his speeches said, well, Donald Trump brags about the economy. That was my economy that he inherited. That was Barack Obama's economy, as the former president said at that point. But that was really the only opportunity that I heard. Certainly Tim Walz didn't make it in the vice presidential debate, trying to remind people about what was wrong with the Donald Trump economy. The Democrats never took him on that issue. Well, and I showed up tonight because people said, well, I remember it as a great economy, so I'm going to put him back in office. But what they do remember are checks. And I've heard many people say this. They remember that during the pandemic, they got checks.
And what's amazing is that Democrats couldn't find a way, they were handcuffed on it a little bit, but to talk about COVID-19. I mean, Donald Trump was voted out of office, in fact, because he bungled the response to COVID-19. That didn't come up very much at all.
And you're watching CBS News, America Decides. We'll be right back.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
Okay, so let's just start at the beginning.
Well, let me start with this. What is at stake here? What is the answer to that?
Do you know why?
You want me to just keep going?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Were there death threats?
How is this possible?
What's wrong with that?
Are you saying they lied?
Have you told the government that? Why won't you say the word crisis?
You're not answering my question.
Is that scary?
Does that make sense?
What does that mean to you? That makes sense. What's your response?
It's time for the CBS News Original 60 Minutes, Sunday on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
There is no more room in our city.
New York City is receiving record numbers of migrants, max capacity. CBS Reports goes inside a crisis cities and families are facing as they fight to survive.
The United States still has that glimmer of hope for people to come here.
Fighting for a future. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
This case.
It's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Look at John Grisham.